Hi again, Gregg, the News Tribune here at the Palace in Inglewood, the stadium. It was rocking from Seahawks fans today, more than Charger fans. The most dominant, complete win of the Seahawks season so far, and they did it in a game DK Metcalf left early with the knee injury. Let's get to that first. Pete Carroll said after the game, x-rays were negative, but x-rays really don't show anything about possible ligament damage. That's what MRIs are for. Metcalf will get that tomorrow when he gets back to Seattle. The team flew home Sunday night. Only after that will the Seahawks know the extent of the injury. Carroll called it he said he was, quote, thrilled that the x-rays were negative, but again, that wouldn't show necessarily the ligament damage. That could be obviously the bigger concern. He left leaping for a pass here in this end zone in the first quarter, and when he came down on his left leg, his ankle seemed to buckle somewhat inside, and that awkwardly had his whole body weight on his left leg. Went off in the back of a cart. This time, unlike in Detroit when he went to use the bathroom on a motorized cart, this time he was in the back of it with a towel draped over his head. One thing that perhaps will give the Seahawks and their fans encouragement is that Ryan Neal, the safety, said after the game he came in at halftime and talked to Metcalf, and Metcalf was smiling and said he was going to be all right, and that he thought everything was okay. He was very optimistic and positive, and so was Neal. But a lot of concern in the locker room. Neal said that everyone is thinking about it, and it really was the topic of conversation after this win. That, and as Quandre Diggs and I talked in the locker room over some banging bass, made it sound like it was the 2013 Seahawks locker room. Diggs basically said, "I told you so." He said, if you remember, he re-signed for 3 years and $40 million 6 days in March, 6 days after the Seahawks traded Russell Wilson and cut Bobby Wagner on the same day. And we all asked him then, why did you do that? This team was getting instantly pegged down to 5 wins by the Las Vegas odds makers. They were written off as flatliners, bottom feeders this season. Well, here they are in first place, alone entering Halloween weekend, alone in first place in the NFC West because San Francisco lost at home to the Chiefs today. And I asked Diggs about that, and he said, "I told you so. Pete Carroll told you so. We aren't rebuilding." Diggs said that he believes in the culture here, in the coaching and the culture that present the winning culture in the system. And he says that's what's on display here. That and the fact the defense is stopping the run. They are making offenses the last 2 weeks, Arizona and then the Chargers today, one-dimensional. And what's that do? Well, it's second and third and long instead of second and third and short. It brings Darrell Taylor onto the field, and suddenly Taylor looks like what he was supposed to be in this new 3-4 defense. A lethal speed edge rusher at outside linebacker. Before the first 4 games when the Seahawks were the worst run defense in the league, Taylor couldn't hang with that because on 3rd and 2 and 3, his strength is neutralized. He has to play the run more. He was getting blocked. He was getting taken out of plays. Now they have him back in his specialized pass rushing role. Boye Mafe, the rookie linebacker, is playing the early downs, and they're stopping the run across the board, defensive line and linebackers suddenly. They stopped Austin Eckler in the Chargers run game again today, and that creates the obvious passing situations in which Taylor thrives. He had a strip sack again today. He's become a force the last 2 games that he absolutely was not for the first 4. He wasn't alone. Poona Ford had another active day on the defensive line. Shelby Harris twice knocked down passes. Quentin Jefferson had a sack. 8 hits and 3 sacks on Justin Herbert, and coming into this game, he was one of the least sacked, least touched quarterbacks in the league because he was getting the ball out so quickly. But the Seahawks got to him. Ryan Neal had an interception on a pass over the middle. It was an easy pick. The defense came up with big plays again. This is 6 times now in 7 games this season. The Seahawks defense has forced at least 2 turnovers. And if they're getting takeaways, multiple takeaways every week, Geno Smith and rookie running back Ken Walker are playing more than well enough to win those type of games. Walker was dynamic again today. The jump cuts he makes, he stops and he runs. I can't do it nearly just as quickly as the rookie does. He said he practices it all the time. Did in Michigan State, practices it every day here at Seattle, and he practices it to time up with the blocks in front of him multiple times. I'm talking half dozen or more times today. He should have been tackled in the backfield for a 3-yard loss, and he turned him into 3 yards or 4 yards or 7-yard gains. Ended up with 168 yards. You saw the toss sweep at the end that clinched the win for 74 yards down the right sideline. 2 tight ends sealing the edge, and then it was just Walker straight line speed. He didn't need to jump cut anybody there. Suddenly, and not not unrealistically, the Seahawks had the opportunity to have the offensive and defensive rookies of the year in the NFL. Tariq Woolen did not have an interception today, but that's only because the Chargers barely threw at him. Word's already getting out that don't throw at Woolen unless you want to get intercepted. 4 interceptions in 4 games coming into today. Now Walker with 350 plus yards in 3 games since Rashad Penny went down, really 2.5 because Penny got hurt late in the second quarter of that game. 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games for Walker. His speed and lateral quickness getting out of tight jams and making people miss, it is uncanny and it is unique in the league. They struck it rich, the Seahawks. John Snyder and Pete Carroll did, drafting him in the 2nd round when everyone was saying, why'd you take a running back that high with all the needs you have? A lot of, well, they may be rights right now. They're still only 4-3, but that's good enough for first place. Now they got the Giants coming in next week, who are 6-1. Suddenly one of the more intriguing games of the early to mid-season in the very jumbled, perhaps very weakened NFC. All my coverage is at thenewstribune.com, on Twitter at GBellSeattle. As always, thanks for watching.